Hey everyone, this is Mike, and today I've got something a little bit special for you guys, and that is an old Extreme Primal solo clear. It was something that yesterday I was thinking about, like, as we get stronger through getting new expansions, getting a higher level cap, getting new gear and that kind of stuff, we of course grow quite a bit stronger in the game, and then eventually soloing old fights kind of becomes a possibility as well. And I thought yesterday, you know what, can I solo Sophia Extreme? Let's go try it out. Reason why I picked Sophia Extreme is because that was the first Extreme Primal that I ever did in this game. I started playing around the end of Heavensward, and then just as I reached level 60 back then, I think the day after that, Sophia Extreme and the Creator Savage came out for Alexander. So that was kind of like my first experience with endgame content. It took me like 2 weeks or something to clear back in the day, because cross-world server, like Party Finder, was not a thing yet. So I basically had to do with what people were on my server, and well, PF was quite trappy back then, even worse than it is right now. So it took quite a while to get it down. Once I did get it down, it was quite satisfying to get it done. And then of course I went into raiding later down the line as well. So Sophia was a little bit special to me, and that's why it was the first Extreme Primal that I kind of wanted to try and see if I could solo myself. Now, I'm probably gonna do some other ones as well, try it here or there, maybe see what is possible. I'm not 100% sure of that just yet. But for now, enjoy the Sophia one. Now, the reason why I am playing Dark Knight, because there's a good reason for that. Now, you might be like, Mike, you play Gunbreaker, you play Warrior, why Dark Knight? Because I have talked about Dark Knight before, I do enjoy playing the job, but definitely not as much as I enjoy some of the other tanks like Gunbreaker and Warrior. And the main reason why I play Dark Knight is because I think that Dark Knight is probably the only one that can solo with Paladin. You might have luck with as well, because Hallowed Ground is really strong, and you of course also have Clemency. I tried Paladin once. I am a horrible Paladin, by the way, so of course if you're better at it you probably can do it. I couldn't, but I tried it just once to see how far I could go, and I just felt like I ran out of mana at some point for the Clemency. So who knows, if you're a better Paladin than me you probably can do it, but it was tough, quite tough. On Warrior I got to like 10% before I died. But the main issue with trying to solo this fight is not you doing damage to the boss or something like that, because all tanks are good enough for that. I think I cleared this one even well before Enrage as well. But it's mainly the damage that you are taking, and not necessarily from like AoEs or other other mechanics that are going on, because you can actually dodge a lot of the damage in this fight if you execute the mechanics correctly. But it is the tank busters. Not necessarily the damage that the tank busters do, but the magic vulnerability that you get after the tank busters, because Sophia, just like many other fights in this game, require a tank swap whenever the tank buster happens. And since you are alone, you of course can't tank swap with somebody else. So if I had somebody else, then you'd be able to solo this or like duo this on pretty much any tank combination, because you can just provoke and tank swap whenever is necessary, and then you basically have no issue right there. But when it comes down to the solo, you can't do that, of course. So whenever you take a tank buster, you're going to be left with that magic vulnerability up, or I think it's like thunder vulnerability up, because all of her attacks and her auto attacks and stuff do thunder damage, which is magic damage. Now, knowing all of these things, knowing that she gives a magic vulnerability up, knowing that all of her abilities, auto attacks included, are magic damage, what better tank to take than a Dark Knight, the anti-magical tank? Not only do they have the best cooldown suite in my opinion when it comes down to preventing damage, because of course when it comes down to like just having, like, I guess you could say sustain and such available, I think Warrior is still better. Problem with Warrior in this fight, or in solo fights, is that you can't use Nascent Flash on yourself. You need a party member to be there in order to use Nascent Flash, so that's the first problem. And the second problem is Warrior has a really good cooldown suite when it comes down to mitigating damage, but it doesn't have a good cooldown suite when it comes down to preventing damage. And that is where Dark Knight is incredibly strong, because not only do you have like 5 cooldowns that you can technically use, you have Rampart, you have Dark Mind, you have Dark Missionary, I think the 30% is called Shadow Wall, and then you still have Reprisal as well, which of course, since we do not care about our party mitigation, because we don't have a party, we can use those tools to mitigate tank busters and such as well. And then of course, we have the strongest spammable cooldown in the game through TBN. It's a 25% shield, which is going to be the key factor as to why this fight is possible on Dark Knight, and might be really hard to do on some of the other tanks, even might be impossible for stuff like, for example, Warrior and Gunbreakers to do. Paladin, as I said, might be able to do it because of Clemency, but with Dark Knight it is so much easier, and that is because if you do TBN plus an extra cooldown, be it Rampart, be it Dark Mind, Dark Missionary, anything. I think Reprisal might even be enough as well. Will make it so that you take 0 damage from the Tank Buster because of the 25% HP shield that TBN gives you. And because of this, because you take 0 damage from the Tank Buster, you also don't get the Magic Vulnerability up, and that is the main thing that is going to kill you in this fight. The Magic Vulnerability up makes it so that you're going to be taking a crap load of damage from the auto attacks and the other mechanics as well, because of course there are a couple of other like instances of damage that you can't just like dodge because it's a dodgeable AoE or something like that. But basically the auto attacks are going to be the main thing that are going to be killing you if you attempt a solo, and Dark Knight can get around that because they can just shield the damage, take no damage from the Tank Buster, and then just not get the Magic Vulnerability up. You can do this without Echo as well. Yesterday when I cleared it, I noticed that I did it with Echo, so this morning I went back and then I got the recording that you're seeing in the background right now, which is without Echo. So you don't need Echo in order to clear this either. I also don't have amazing gear on my tanks. I still am running around with some old pieces like I-470, I think, from the previous raid tier, because I've been playing caster this raid tier. So I don't have a weapon. I think I have a couple of pieces here and there because I've been gearing up my Gunbreaker, of course. But yeah, basically I don't have the best gear available yet in this raid tier, so you definitely don't need all of the best gear in the world in order to be able to pull this off. But basically it was a lot of fun to do. It was fun trying to figure out how I was going to go about it, trying to remember all of the previous mechanics, because of course there are a couple of cool things to know. For example, the Raid White AoE and the Tank Buster, they don't have a cast bar, they just have a visual cue where she glows white when she does the Raid White, she glows greenish when she's gonna do the Tank Buster, so that was really cool. Because right now pretty much everything always has a cast bar attached to it, so it's nice to go back to like something that wasn't really cast bar shown to you. You just had to look at the boss and see what the boss was doing, which was cool. And then of course also the clone mechanic, where she tethers to different clones. You have to remember where the safe spots are going to be, what mechanics were on which clone, and that kind of stuff. And then of course the scale mechanic, where you have to like go to one side of the arena or the other depending on where she's going to be tipping the scales, so to speak. And then also whether or not it was going to be a strong knockback or a weak knockback, because that also depends where you need to be standing depending on the safe spot with the head doing her lasers through the arena and that kind of stuff. Also notice that you can use your gap closer in order to mitigate that knockback. Arm's length also works against the head knockback that she does at the start and towards the end of the fight as well. I didn't try arm's length on the scales knockback itself, because I did know how to handle that mechanic quite well. But when it came down to the head knockback, I just wanted to basically not have to pay attention to that, so that's where I use my arm's lengths. But yeah, I think the only thing that I really fucked up in this like clear is the ad phase. The ad phase went a little bit sideways because I didn't burst down the first ad fast enough, and I also made it phase the wrong way. But in the end still worked out fine. I just had to take some extra time because the second ad that I killed basically had time to heal up the other ones. So that's why it took a little bit longer than expected, but still it worked out just fine. I think the main problems with this clear, or like with this fight, is that during the ad phase, the last ad that I cleared does a very high damaging attack on you, so you need to mitigate the hell out of that thing, so you don't take too much damage from that. Which again, with the other two or the other three tanks can be a little bit of a problem. When I did Paladin, for example, that's where I used my hallowed ground. Might in the end not be the best way or like the best place to use it. But that's basically where I used it and why I did that, because that attack does a crap load of damage, way more than the Tank Busters do. And then of course the Tank Busters themselves. That's why I think Dark Knight's probably going to be the easiest time in order to get this fight done. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about Sophia Extreme. It was my first experience with an Extreme Primal, or like my first endgame experience as a difficult fight as well, because back then it definitely was a pretty hard fight to do, and right now even as well with the solo, you see pretty much all of the mechanics. It's just that they're not going to be doing as much damage to you as they would back then, of course. But you can still get yeeted off the arena if you get hit by arrow, if you stand on the wrong side of the scales, or you don't stand far enough or too far or something like that. You can definitely still die to the mechanics here, which is still so much fun for me to do, to actually see the whole fight and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank my Patreons for supporting me as well, and I'll see you in the next one.